there's a lot of tools for teaching phonics, and you definitely want to use, okay, if you have a kid who's not struggling, you can probably just use the workbooks and the traditional approach to phonics and get it all figured out in a year or two, right? But if you have a kid that's struggling, that's probably not going to be the case. And so you want to use a multisensory approach. And a multisensory approach is not going to hurt any child, whether they struggle or not. So a multisensory approach is great. There are a lot of great programs that work. And then there's strategies that work within those programs or exclusive of those programs. So some strategies would be things like air writing. So if you're if you're using the word cat, they can look up at their finger, okay, look at the fingernail and out the right corner of their eye, and they can write it in the air saying k, a, t, cat. And that is supposed to get that visualized in their mind so that they have symbol imagery is what it's called. Okay. Yeah, so that's one strategy. And you also, I like to have kids write on textures. So you might get a piece of burlap, like the stuff that they sell on a spool for weddings and stuff like that, you know. You get something like that. Or you might have something textured, even the carpet. Just something that has a texture, and you have them write on that texture. And the reason it makes a difference too with writing with their finger as opposed to writing with a pencil is it's sending a different message to the brain. And, you know, yes. And so, and by the way, writing with a pencil is better than writing with a pen, which is better than writing with a dry erase marker. Writing with chalk would be better than writing with a dry erase marker, because the more resistance you have when you're writing, the more it's going to send messages to your brain as well. So those are a couple strategies. Also, you want to look at, you know, making the lessons short, because sometimes, especially if it's something a child struggles with, having a really long, drawn-out lesson is going to be a little bit challenging for them, and they're going to get tired. But even if you are, like, I tutor children, and I typically don't tutor for phonics for more than 45 minutes, but I have a variety of activities within that 45 minutes. So we're not just sitting there trying to sound out words for 45 minutes.
That's a good point. Yes. Just
we're changing it up quite a bit.
Yeah, just change it up. Even if you're working on the same subject, just approach it different ways so the child doesn't feel exhausted.
Right.
Good point.
Exactly. So, yeah, so those are, you know, anytime you can put more senses into it. So if they're spelling it out loud, writing it in the air on a texture, they're looking at it, you know, as many of the senses as you can engage as possible. If you have them moving at the same time, that's even more, you know, just as many of the senses as you possibly can engage at the same time.
Right. I found that, you know, even just having posters in our house, or, you know, like the timeline stuff, that my kids were learning constantly when they walked through our schoolroom, which happened to be my dining room. But they just absorbed that information because it was written and they looked at it all the time. And so, so don't discount just putting up lists of what their spelling words are, or what they're working on reading.
Right.
They learn constantly.
Yeah, and you can even do something like labeling things in your house. So with the, you know, with the words, and then, you know, it does kind of teach them sight words. You know, if everything's labeled, maybe not everything, but as many things as you can are labeled,
or then the family can deal with.
Exactly.